In this video, I will review the results of my February 2023 Pocket Money Challenge, as well as lay out some thoughts and intentions for March. Let's do it. Today is March 1st, and I don't know about others in the Northern Hemisphere, but it feels more like winter now than it did for most of the entire month of February. It's snowy and cold and not really feeling like spring is around the corner. I normally like winter, like quite a lot, but for this one just seems like it's lasted so long, and I'm actually ready for some springtime happies, I think. Except I usually get allergies, and allergies aren't so happy. But I'll take them at this point. I've got Claritin. So the gist of this challenge is that in January I decided to essentially give myself an allowance for a month, kind of like how you would get when you were a kid from your parents. And you have a set amount that you can spend on anything you want. And once it's gone, it's gone. And you have to wait for the next round of allowance to come. And if I had anything left over from that pocket money allowance balance, I could roll it over. And I did have some left over, and I did roll it over to February because I decided to do the challenge again in February. And I am so glad that I did. I'm really getting so much out of looking at where I am and prioritizing what's important now, as well as maybe saving a little bit for a bigger purchase that I might consider later on. But just those little day-to-day, decisions that, we make over time, those add up. Like when I think back to my early 20s and how often I would go out and just get coffee, like all the time, like pretty much every day. I would just buy one thing at a store here and another thing at another store there. And it's just those little everyday decisions that can really, really make a difference in your mindset and your bank account. Doing this challenge has been one of the best decisions I have made in a very long time. I didn't think it would be as insightful, I suppose, as it has been. I mean, I know these no spends and low spends and no buys and low buys, they can be insightful. I've done them throughout the years numerous times, but the way I'm kind of approaching it now is different. This challenge has been good for me. It's been really, really good for me as far as really making me not only see what I have already, but whether or not I'm actually using half the stuff I've got. And the answer to that has been a resounding, this is helping me sort of prioritize and really assess and reevaluate what in my life at this point is actually important. And I'm keeping in mind as well that I'm at a phase in my life where things are sort of shifting. My son's graduating high school this year. His intention is to attend boot camp for the Marine Corps. He has enlisted. So if he does that and makes it through that, I will essentially be an empty nester toward the latter half of this year. And that is a big dramatic shift for me because I've been a single parent for the past almost 18 years. It's been like the significant thing, in my life. And so really thinking and assessing what I have, is it going to serve me? Do I need more of it? And just kind of shifting my attention and my awareness in a different way, just because my life is changing. It's good practice for me for that process. I will link my January results video in the description box of this one. I think I created a playlist for this one already. I can't remember, but I will, each video I do for each month that I choose to do this challenge, I will put in that playlist. So for January, I ended up having a fairly significant chunk of my allowance left over. I gave myself a set amount of $100 in January. I spent $69.40 of my pocket money on just various things that I wanted throughout the month, which gave me a remainder of $30.60, which I subsequently rolled over to February. In February, I reduced the allowance that I gave myself for the month of February because January we ate out a lot. We spent more than we typically would. It was a month. It was an outlier month as far as how often we were in the car, how often we were eating out, and just various other things that popped up. So I reduced my allowance in February to $60. I added $60 to that leftover $30.60, which gave me a total for February of $90.60 as my pocket money balance that I could spend on whatever I wanted. I should probably reiterate and clarify that these pocket money purchases, these are what I would consider, these are extras. So this is after, my four walls are taken care of: rent, power, phone, internet, groceries, gas, insurance, anything like that. Anything my son needs automatically gets done. These are extras for me. These aren't extras for him. My son, he works a couple of different construction sites on weekends during breaks, and he'll go and he'll work for an entire weekend and bring home a couple $100, and he saves pretty much everything he has, and he has his own vehicle. He pays for his own gas, his own insurance, and a lot of his own little extra things that he wants or requires. But if it's something I feel I should do, then I will just automatically do it. This includes anything medical, or maybe helping him with something that's a little bit of a bigger expense. But these extras are just the little things that are wants and not needs. For February, I also set an intention to do what I would consider a low buy on both groceries and eating out. I still spent more than I wanted in both of those categories, if I'm honest, but significantly less than we typically do. So I call that a win. We live in a more rural area. Things are expensive. Food is expensive if we buy here in town. So it's like buying in town, you're going to pay more for food, or you could spend the money to put gas in your vehicle to go a few towns over and get stuff that's a little bit cheaper. And I do both of those things. But as a whole, and just with inflation is never ending. I swear. It's getting worse. It's not getting better. I really don't think it's getting better. It's getting worse in that regard. And so this is a good practice just to kind of mitigate that as well. So I'll review the amount spent on eating out and groceries first, and then we'll get to what I bought with my pocket money and how much I spent. So for February, for groceries total, for my son, who is 17 and has the metabolism of a hummingbird and can eat all day, every day, and still be 6'2" and 150 pounds, and myself, for the two of us, we spent $404.80 for the month of February. That is significantly less than we typically do. It's still a bit higher than I anticipated, but honestly not by much. And we still have a pretty good freezer stock. So I actually am predicting that we might spend something similar to this for the month of March, just because of where we are now. So $404.80 for my son and I for groceries. That's what we spent in February. So I'm okay with that. Eating out, it was still higher than I wanted, but significantly less than January. January was scary in that department. But for eating out, between my son and I, we spent $102.43. So still a little bit more than I wanted, but significantly less than January. So I'm okay with both of those. For my pocket money purchases, as I said before, my balance for February was $90.60. That included the $30.60 I rolled over from January and the additional $60 that I added on top of that just for my set amount for February. So $90.60 is what I had to work with. First pocket money spend was on the 3rd. I have 3 spends on the 3rd. That was a shopping weekend, and that's pretty typical. That I'll have a little chunk kind of all in one day or over a couple of days. My first buy was in a category that I actually didn't consider where I wanted to put it as far as is it grocery or is it extra, and that's alcohol. I didn't think about alcohol just because I will go through sometimes spans of months where I won't buy alcohol. I won't buy beer or wine or cider or whiskey or anything like that for months at a time. And then sometimes I buy regularly throughout any given month. It really just depends. So I hadn't bought any alcohol in a while, and I was like, where do I put this? In the end, I decided it was extra and it was going to come out of my pocket money. I was in the mood for a particular type of red wine that is produced regionally in my area, and it is a Syrah and Riesling blend. So it's mostly Syrah, and and then it has Riesling blended. So essentially, it turns it into a sweet red, which is right up my alley. And I was craving that wine, like out of nowhere. It just kind of hit me, and it's a bit expensive for me for a single bottle. But I was like, do I really want to spend this amount on a bottle of wine that's going to last me 2 to 3 days? Because I don't mind the taste of red wine after a couple of days. I actually like it a little bit better just because it's had some breathing time. But there is a fine line of when it's drinkable between when it's drinkable and when it becomes vinegar. So you have to be careful with that. But I don't mind having a bottle of wine 2, 3, maybe even 4 days after it's been open. It just depends on the wine. So I was like, do I really want to spend this money on this one thing that I'm going to consume and it's going to be gone? And I did. I did. So I bought that bottle of sweet red wine, and it cost $25.01. That might not be expensive for wine for some people, but for a single bottle, for me, that's a bit on the somewhat pricier end of what I would typically buy. So $25.01 for a bottle of wine. That was over a quarter of my of my whole allowance, but it was really good and it was worth it. And I would do it again. Second purchase, also on the 3rd. I was out of a specific type of incense that I love, and I wasn't going to buy incense at all for the next several months. I no-buyed that in November, and I didn't buy any in November or December. Or January for that matter. So this was the first incense I had bought in quite a while. It's the sandalwood stick incense from Urban Earth. It's not the highest quality. It's better than a lot that I've tried, but there's something about that particular sandalwood incense that I love. I talked a little bit about it in my reading, my navigating grief reading that I did for Pisces season. I burned that incense in my burner during that video, and I kind of explained why I like it so much. But I missed that incense, and I just wanted a pack of that incense, and so I bought a pack of that incense. And after tax, it cost me $3.16 for a pack of 20 sticks. So added to the $25.01 for the bottle of wine, that brought my total up to $28.17. Next pocket money purchase was that same day. It was a shopping weekend. It happens. I said in my January video, I include coffees out. Coffees and teas out go into my pocket money. They don't go into eating out. They go into pocket money because for me, that can be a very what I call hot button category. I can spend quite a bit of money really quickly in that department. And so I decided I would try to rein that in by putting it in my pocket money category. And that has worked. It's really helped me not consume so much coffee and tea out, particularly when I have so much at home and I enjoy making it so much at home. There's really no reason for me to be getting it out all the time. But on that same day, on the 3rd, I did get a coffee out. It was delicious. It was an iced, I still like iced coffee in the wintertime. Sometimes I like iced coffee more in the winter than I do in the summer, which is interesting. But it was an iced triple shot Breve with a bit of Irish cream syrup. It's one of my go-to. I put Irish cream in like everything, including another drink that I'll mention later. But anyway, okay, so that coffee out after tax and tip cost me $5.73. And that added to my running total brought me up to $33.90. Next purchase was the next day on the 4th. I told my kid that I would go halvesies on him for Sling TV. I mentioned in my January video that there are a handful of streaming services that we keep all the time, and we just budget for those just because we use them all the time. But there's another handful that we don't use all the time and that we kind of rotate in kind of when we want them, and we don't have them all the time. Sling TV is one of those, YouTube TV sometimes as well. But my son is a NASCAR fan. He loves his racing and his NASCAR, and the season has started to pick up, and he was really wanting to watch some of the races live. And Sling TV offers the channels that he likes for that. And he was like, "Will you go in half?" Because I would use it too if we had it, not as often as he would, but I would still use it. So he's like, "How about can we go half?" He's a great negotiator. He's really good at negotiating. He's like, "Can we go half?" And so I said, yes, we can go half. So the total for that was 40. My half was 20. So I had a $20 pocket money expense for Sling TV, which brought my total up to $53.90. My next purchase wasn't until the 12th, so a week had gone by. And I was out again picking up a few things in a few towns over, and I got myself an iced masala chai with Irish cream. Trust me, it's amazing. After tax and tip, that iced chai with Irish cream cost me $5.50, and that brought my total up to $59.40. Next expense was the 15th, so the day after the chai. I mentioned in my January video that I received an offer to get some Audible credits at a discount, essentially 50% off for 3 months. And I did activate that offer. And so I had an Audible credit expense in January, and I had one this month as well. So I ended up paying $8.13 for one single Audible credit. And that brought my total up to $67.53. $8 is a great deal for an audiobook credit. I couldn't pass that up. So I'll get one more for March. And then I might quit my membership for a while just because I have so many. So that purchase was the 15th, Audible for $8.13. My last purchase of the month, last pocket money purchase of the month, was actually just a couple of days ago. And this was a tricky one too, just because it was a category I hadn't considered as well, like the alcohol was. It's a charitable donation, and I was like, do I put that in my budget? Because I used to have a budget for giving, where I wouldn't necessarily do it every month, but I would have like a cushion if I wanted to give to a cause that was calling me at that time. I could, but that kind of fell by the wayside a little bit. I decided I had a little bit left over, and I was like, okay, well, this will be a pocket money, because it would encourage me then to think of this cause that I was giving to versus feeling like I needed something for myself. And it was on the 27th, so it was pretty much the end of the month. I gave a charitable donation of $25 to Doctors Without Borders for their work in Turkey and Syria in assisting with medical care for survivors and victims of the catastrophic earthquakes that have occurred in that region. And I really felt like I wanted to give to that cause. So I did, and I spent $25. That being said, it brought my total up to $92.53. So I actually went over my allowance by $1.93. I'm not mad about that, because that last spend was an extremely worthy cause, and I would do it again. So I am in the hole technically right now by $1.93. Now the question is, am I going to do this for March? And the answer is absolutely. Pocket Money Challenge March 2023 is a go. I have allowed myself $100 for the month of March, but because I'm in the hole, $1.93, that brings my allowance total to $98.07 is what I have available to me. I added a little bit extra this month because I backed a Kickstarter. Not the biggest fan of Kickstarters. I think it's a great platform for getting projects out there, but I also think it's a really, really, really easy trap to get yourself into as far as bringing things in and spending. And just to clarify, if you are coming at this from a non divination tarot lens, I backed a tarot deck on Kickstarter. I knew it was coming, and I had kind of already accounted for this expense, but it is definitely an extra, and so it's going into my pocket money expense. I backed Claire Mack's Rain Shadow Tarot. She didn't have images of all the cards, which I was kind of bummed about, but I saw enough to know that it's something that I might like. And even if I don't end up liking it necessarily as a tarot deck, I'm still probably going to keep it because she is from my region. I would classify her location as regional to me, and the rain shadow is very important to where we live, and it reminds me a bit of home. And I have her oracle decks, both of them, and I love them. I'm looking forward to what this tarot has to offer, particularly because of the minors I saw. They're a bit different. It's an RWS based deck. I'm pretty certain based on what I saw, but the minors are different enough that it might actually work for me as a tarot. So long story short, I backed a Kickstarter, a tarot deck on Kickstarter. And I think it was that purchase will go through in March. I believe that campaign was funded the first day. The first day it went live, and so that will go through. And I got an early bird. So the early bird price of 50 plus the shipping of 7, that brought that total. I don't know if that's going to be the actual total or if there are going to be taxes and things added onto that. But currently that sits at $57. So that is pretty much $57 is already accounted for. So actually, I haven't left myself much of a cushion for much else for the month of March, but that's okay because next month in April, my son and I are taking a trip. And we're going to be in Tennessee for a week for spring break, doing some various things. And I have some money set aside just for fun stuff for that. And so I don't think I'm going to feel too terribly deprived in March, knowing that I've got that coming up to sort of look forward to. Kind of a consequence of that, if I decide to do this again in April, I don't know. I'm going to have to look at my numbers a little bit just to see if I'm going to allow myself a whole lot more, just because there's already stuff I'm buying on our trip. So I'm not quite sure about that. But March is a go. We're doing the thing. It's been a good exercise, and I'm enjoying the process of just being aware of what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling about things that I want and experiences that I want to bring into my life or to have, and writing them down on my list that Julie inspired me to keep, and just being aware of where I am in that process. I found it to be really, really valuable. So yeah, March is a go. February was for the most part successful, even though I ended up in the hole by almost $2. But I gave to a worthy cause, and I would do it. Like I said, I would do it again. I will definitely do a video for March, probably after we get back from our trip, or maybe the weekend before we leave, because I think the timing works out where the end of the month is toward the end of the week before that. So maybe I'll put it up if I have time the weekend before we leave. So, okay, that's it. Until my next video, take care. Be well.